in fashion. He didn't keep his word on that. He'd rather spend that money on his side chick. Bought her a Ferrari as a push present, but that car, according to the Daily Mail, got repossessed the day after Wendy announced the divorce. You know you can't afford those type of toys, Kev.
I don't recommend that you work with your husband because I made him my manager, and then when I decided to divorce him, he had to be fired. In other words, I made him divorced and unemployed all in one day.
Y'all, this situation just took a turn that nobody saw coming. The woman who spent years quietly standing beside Kevin Hunter is now the same woman lighting the match that could burn his entire world down. And at the center of this messy explosion? None other than Wendy Williams and the millions tied to her name. For years, people believed Sharina Hudson would stay loyal to Kevin no matter what happened. After all, she was the woman who lived comfortably behind the scenes while Kevin's life with Wendy slowly collapsed in public. But now something has shifted, and insiders say the fallout between Kevin and Sharina is so ugly that it's exposing secrets people thought would stay buried forever. Here's where it gets even crazier. Just as Wendy Williams is rumored to be preparing for a major return to television, a comeback that could bring in serious money, Kevin Hunter is suddenly trying to slide back into her life. Yes, the same Kevin who betrayed her, humiliated her, and watched their marriage explode in front of the entire world. Now he's reportedly trying to convince Wendy that he's the only person she can trust. But Sharina Hudson is not staying quiet anymore. Sources say she's furious, and she's warning anyone who will listen that if Wendy ever allows Kevin back into her circle, the consequences could be devastating. According to Sharina, letting Kevin anywhere near Wendy again wouldn't just reopen old wounds, it could hand him complete control over Wendy's money and her future. And the deeper you look into the story, the darker it gets.
Wendy Williams' husband has filed a $260 million lawsuit claiming that Wendy is being held against her will in an illegal guardianship, has caused all sorts of financial and emotional damage. Problem is, he's divorced from her, and she didn't like her much.
No, it was not a great divorce.
She didn't like him much.
And even though she's had to pay him out a whole lot of money over a lot of years, she doesn't want him a part of this. And you know this straight from the source.
Well, I know it straight from the source because before I talked to the source, meaning Wendy, it was just apparent to me. I mean, he's filing this as Kevin Hunter, her friend. I mean, when does a friend have standing to file a 200? She had no idea about this lawsuit.
For more than 3 long years, Wendy Williams' life has been locked behind a legal wall that many people believed she might never escape. But now, insiders are whispering that the end of that guardianship could be just days away. And if that really happens, the entire situation around Wendy, her career, and the people who once controlled her life is about to explode in ways nobody is prepared for. The reason Wendy was placed under such a strict guardianship in the first place was a medical claim that shocked her fans. Doctors originally suggested that she was suffering from frontotemporal dementia, a serious neurological condition that can slowly destroy a person's ability to function. That diagnosis became the foundation for keeping Wendy under tight control for more than 3 years. During that time, many people believed she would never return to the public life she once dominated. But now, a new twist has completely changed the narrative. Recent medical evaluations reportedly found no evidence that Wendy ever had frontotemporal dementia at all. According to sources close to the situation, the results suggested something far less permanent, that some of her previous symptoms may have been linked to exhaustion, alcohol, and temporary health struggles rather than a degenerative disease. If that's true, the entire justification for the guardianship suddenly begins to collapse. And that's exactly why the people watching this story closely believe Wendy could soon regain full control of her life and her finances. Her new management team has been quietly signaling that Wendy has been improving step by step. They claim she's clearer, stronger, and more focused than she's been in years. Meanwhile, executives connected to Debmar Mercury, the same production company behind her former show, have never fully closed the door on her return. In fact, insiders say the possibility of a comeback has been sitting in the background for a long time, just waiting for the right moment. Because the truth is, daytime television has never truly recovered from Wendy Williams' absence. Love her or hate her, Wendy built a style of television that nobody else could replicate. She wasn't polished. She wasn't cautious. She said things other hosts were too afraid to say, and audiences tuned in every single day to watch the chaos unfold. When her show disappeared, producers scrambled to replace that energy, but nothing quite worked the same way. Now the timing of everything suddenly feels suspiciously perfect. Sherry Shepherd's daytime show recently lost its footing, and with that cancellation came something extremely valuable in television, an open slot. In the world of daytime programming, those slots are worth millions. And if Wendy Williams is truly healthy enough to return, there's a very real chance that networks could hand that position straight back to the woman who dominated it for years. In other words, Wendy's comeback could mean serious money. And the moment money enters the conversation, certain people suddenly start reappearing. Because while all of this speculation about Wendy's return has been heating up, one familiar name has quietly started circling again: Kevin Hunter. Yes, that Kevin Hunter. The same man who was not only Wendy's former husband, but also her longtime manager, the man who stood beside her during her rise, but also played a massive role in one of the most humiliating betrayals of her life. The man who secretly maintained a relationship with another woman for over a decade while still married to Wendy. The same scandal that ultimately destroyed their marriage and shocked millions of viewers. Now, Kevin is suddenly positioning himself as someone Wendy might need again. According to reports, he's been suggesting that Wendy requires someone trustworthy in her corner as she prepares to rebuild her career. And in his mind, who could possibly understand her better than the man who managed her empire for years? But critics aren't buying it for a second. Because this isn't just an ex-husband trying to reconnect. This is the same man who carried on a secret life for years, fathered a child outside his marriage, and still tried to secure massive financial support from Wendy even while she was struggling under the guardianship that controlled her life. To many observers, Kevin's sudden reappearance feels less like concern and more like strategy. In fact, Kevin has already made several public moves that suggest he's trying to push his way back into Wendy's orbit. At one point, he even claimed he was fighting for her freedom, saying she should be removed from the facility where she was staying and allowed to return home because she was sober and capable of living independently. But his most dramatic move came when he filed a massive lawsuit worth $250 million. In that filing, Kevin argued that Wendy's guardianship was abusive and unfair. He even attempted to position himself as her legal next friend, a role that would have allowed him to step in and manage her affairs directly. That attempt didn't go very far. The judge overseeing the case quickly shut the idea down, ruling that Kevin had no authority to take over Wendy's guardianship and no position to control her finances. It was a serious setback for him, at least legally. But according to people close to the situation, Kevin hasn't exactly given up. Sources claim he has been trying to quietly reconnect with Wendy behind the scenes, allegedly hoping that emotional history and the bond they still share through their son could open a door back into her life. And then came a mysterious blind item circulating online that only added more fuel to the fire. The anonymous report claimed that a terrible ex-husband of a famous former talk show host had recently started trying to win her back, right around the time his longtime mistress allegedly walked away from him after the money dried up. If that blind item is accurate, the timing suddenly becomes very interesting. Because if Kevin truly lost the woman he built his secret life around, and Wendy Williams is about to regain control of her fortune and career, some people believe his sudden interest in reconciliation might not be about love at all. It might be about survival.
Husband, I'm still wearing my ring. He's my best friend. He's my lover. He's all this and he's all that. I know what you've been seeing, and I knew what the streets have been talking about.
Wendy set the record straight on reports that her husband, Kevin Hunter, allegedly had a years-long affair with a massage therapist.
I am still very much in love with my husband, and anybody who's been married for 5 minutes or 500 years, you know, marriages have ebbs and flows. Marriages are not easy. Don't ask me about mine until you see this gone. And it ain't gone.
But according to Sharina Hudson, letting Kevin Hunter back into Wendy Williams' life wouldn't just be a mistake, it would be a disaster waiting to happen. And the reason Sharina speaks with so much certainty is simple. She claims she knows exactly how Kevin operates because, for years, she was part of the system that helped him get away with it. Sharina wasn't always seen as the villain in this story. Long before her name became attached to scandal headlines, she was simply a woman chasing her own dreams. Friends say she wanted a simple life built around cooking, hoping one day to expand her passion into a chain of food trucks and restaurants. That was the plan, until Kevin Hunter entered the picture and changed everything. The two were reportedly introduced through media personality Charlemagne the God during the time Kevin was still deeply involved in Wendy's professional world. At first, everything seemed exciting. Kevin came across as confident, powerful, and well-connected, a man who knew how to make things happen. For someone like Sharina, who was still trying to build her future, his promises sounded like an opportunity she couldn't ignore. Kevin told her something that would alter the course of her life. He assured her she would never have to struggle again. According to sources who later spoke about the situation, Kevin didn't just make promises, he backed them up with money and luxury. Soon Sharina found herself living a lifestyle most people only dream about. Expensive cars began appearing in her driveway. Designer jewelry filled her closets. And eventually, she was living in a house that insiders say was funded entirely with Wendy Williams' money. To the outside world, none of this was visible. The relationship remained hidden for years, carefully tucked away from the public eye while Wendy continued hosting her show and building a multi-million-dollar brand. But behind the scenes, the situation was far more complicated. Reports later surfaced suggesting that when Kevin felt the money flowing from Wendy wasn't enough to maintain the life he was building with Sharina, he allegedly started moving things around. Items from Wendy's life, belongings, assets, and valuables were reportedly sold or taken without clear permission. The goal, according to those familiar with the situation, was simple: keep the secret lifestyle going. The heartbreaking part of the story is that Wendy may not have realized what was happening. By many accounts, Wendy trusted Kevin completely. After years of marriage and working side by side to build her career, she believed he had her best interests at heart. That trust allowed Kevin to move freely through her world, financially, professionally, and personally, without constant suspicion. And even if Wendy ever questioned missing items or financial irregularities, Kevin reportedly had explanations ready. Some insiders claim he structured certain assets under legal protections that allowed him to argue the property belonged to both of them. In other cases, he could simply say Wendy had approved something during a moment she didn't clearly remember, especially during times when she struggled with stress, exhaustion, or alcohol. In other words, Kevin always had a story prepared. There were even whispers about a charity connected to Kevin that some critics believed was being used as a way to quietly move money around. Allegations surfaced suggesting that the organization may have been used to funnel resources into gifts and benefits for Sharina while appearing legitimate on paper. And then there were the vacations. While Wendy traveled the world with her husband, enjoying what appeared to be a glamorous marriage in the spotlight, another strange detail was happening behind the scenes. Sources claimed that Sharina often traveled to the same destinations, staying nearby but carefully separated from Wendy. She reportedly even had security assigned at times to make sure the two women never crossed paths. It was a bizarre arrangement, almost like two completely different lives orbiting the same man without colliding. At the time, Sharina reportedly didn't question the situation too deeply. Kevin had given her a promise that made everything else easier to justify. He told her that eventually he would leave Wendy. According to him, it was only a matter of time. But there was always a condition attached to that promise. The timing had to be right. In reality, many people now believe that meant Kevin planned to stay with Wendy until he had taken everything he possibly could from the marriage, financially and professionally. For years, Sharina accepted that explanation. She believed the future Kevin described was real, and that one day the secret relationship would become legitimate. She stayed loyal, waiting patiently while the years passed. But as their relationship approached the 10-year mark, something inside Sharina began to change. The promises Kevin once made started sounding less believable. The future he had described kept moving further away instead of getting closer. And slowly, the woman who once trusted him completely began to wonder if she had been living inside a story that was never meant to become reality.
She is tired of hiding the relationship, okay? She's tired of being a side bitch. She's tired of having abortions and shit like that. And she just wants Wendy out of the picture so that she can live her life out and free with her man and not have to sneak and meet Kevin in random places and shit like that, okay?
For years, Sharina Hudson believed she was building a future with Kevin Hunter. But behind the promises and secret vacations, insiders say the truth was far darker. Sources claim Sharina became pregnant by Kevin multiple times before their daughter was finally born. Each time, the pregnancy allegedly had to disappear quietly because Kevin was terrified that the truth would reach Wendy Williams and blow up the double life he had carefully built. Eventually, Sharina reached her breaking point. After years of waiting for Kevin to leave Wendy like he promised, she decided to force the truth into the open. A photo of her and Kevin vacationing together suddenly appeared in the media, and many believe that leak was no accident. Sharina reportedly thought the exposure would finally push Kevin and Wendy toward divorce so she could step into the life he had promised her. But instead, the moment exposed something even more shocking. According to people close to the situation, Kevin never had any real intention of leaving Wendy. The lifestyle, the money, the power, it all depended on keeping that marriage intact. The future he had been promising Sharina for years allegedly didn't exist at all. And the story only gets darker from there. Rumors began circulating that Kevin had been spreading misleading stories to the media, suggesting that he and Wendy might reconcile. Critics say the goal was simple: pressure Wendy emotionally and financially while keeping control of the narrative. But the most disturbing accusations are the ones that still make people pause. There have been whispers that Wendy may have been manipulated and controlled in ways the public never fully understood. Some reports even suggested that police were once contacted over concerns about her well-being, yet nothing ever seemed to move forward. Now the situation has shifted dramatically. Wendy Williams is rumored to be fighting her way back, reclaiming her health, her voice, and possibly her television throne. And if that comeback truly happens, the power dynamic flips overnight. Because the same people who once benefited from Wendy's success may suddenly find themselves completely cut off. Sharina appears to have reached a point where loyalty is gone and revenge is the only thing left. Kevin, who once believed everyone around him would stay silent, may now be facing the consequences of years of secrets, betrayal, and manipulation catching up all at once. The question now is simple. If Wendy Williams finally takes control of her life again, will she close the door on Kevin Hunter forever? Or will the man who once stood at the center of her empire somehow find a way back in? Tell me what you think. Should Wendy keep Kevin as far away from her life as possible? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you've been following this wild story, and subscribe because this situation is still unfolding and the next chapter might be even more explosive.